El Salvador has become the first country in the world to make cryptocurrency Bitcoin a legal tender. Since 2001, the US dollar has been the official currency of this Central American nation. However, President Bukele wanted to be less dependent on the US central bank. His administration therefore adopted Bitcoin as an official currency, running in parallel with the US dollar. Financial institutions like the World Bank, however, are worried that this step could destabilize financial markets. What effects can we expect as of September 7th, the day that the Bitcoin law will be implemented in El Salvador?
Gracias. Where else in the world is this happening? I'll get emotional thinking about it.
And is the country ready for Bitcoin?
I want this to be a success.
I do not believe that El Salvador accepting Bitcoin is going to work.
We'll show you what international experts
Esto no es algo que va a estar mañana listo.
and what the people of El Salvador think about this. This is where the Bitcoin experiment all began for El Salvador. In 2019, El Zonte, a village on the country's Pacific coast, received an anonymous donation in Bitcoin, which kickstarted Bitcoin Beach.
En El Salvador tenemos las mejores olas del mundo porque nuestros volcanes al correr del tiempo y los ríos formaron unos point break que hacen que las olas sean largas y perfectas, que se formen en las mejores condiciones. Para nosotros, como surfistas, esto es un regalo de Dios, ¿verdad? Si no hubiésemos tenido olas, no creo que tuviéramos Bitcoin, ¿verdad? Porque los primeros Bitcoins que vinieron eran surfistas. Eran personas que fueron atraídas por el nivel de olas que había en este lugar. Ahorita toda la comunidad está apoyando a Bitcoin. Todo el mundo, hasta la persona que vende minutas, te puede recibir Bitcoin.
The reason we first came to El Salvador was actually on a surf trip. I came down with a buddy. We just kind of fell in love with the country, wonderful waves, and even more than that, the people. After spending a couple weeks here, I called my wife and I said, hey, we need to come back here and buy a house here. That was like 17 years ago. Yeah, I did see a magazine article that called me the godfather of Bitcoin here. That's definitely not the case. I mean, this has been a local-led initiative. Bitcoin Beach grew very organically. We were already doing a number of initiatives here in the community, really focused on education, and it's always been our dream to bring opportunities to El Salvador. We were introduced to somebody that wanted to support what we were doing, and he really felt that a big part of what we could do to bring jobs into El Salvador was to introduce people to Bitcoin and to show them this new technology and the opportunities that would come with it. To be honest, I don't even know who the person is. I've never met the person, and I think it was somebody who was in the Bitcoin space early days and benefited from it personally and just not wanting to be in the limelight and just wanted to help. And so we kind of brainstormed with the team here and just looked for different ways that we could use Bitcoin to inject it into the community by giving kids sponsorships in Bitcoin for university. So we kind of started small with that, and then it's kind of just blossomed and kept growing into this crazy thing it's become.
Aquí empezó como un proyecto para la comunidad. Empezaron con los estudiantes. Mi hija era una de ellas. A ella cada semana, por todas las tareas entregadas y cada día de sus tareas, le regalaban $25 en Bitcoin. Así empezó. Pues vine yo con desconfianza, la verdad, por primera vez. Yo tenía desconfianza porque yo había oído mucho que decían que era la moneda del diablo, que eso podía ser lo del sello de la bestia y que un montón de cosas. Y yo le dije, vamos a intentar y vamos a ver qué sucede. Pero mira, le decía yo, ¿y para sacarlo cómo vas a hacer? No, no hay ningún problema. Quiero ir ahorrando. Pasó la siguiente semana y así, por 2 meses, ella ahorró $200. Luego después vino mi hermano y me dijo, mira, tu negocio está bastante viable para esto. ¿Quieres intentarlo? Démosle. Bueno, dije yo, lo voy a hacer. Y lo metí.
As people start to use it over time, as they start to transact on their phones, they start to realize all the benefits to having a digital money. And we're seeing this real mind shift where before the goal was, well, I'll just try to sneak into the US. Now the goal is, hey, I want to start my own company here. I want to do something that's going to change El Salvador.
Para eso estamos, para atender. Acá tenemos la mayoría de clientes que pagan con Bitcoin. Lo primero que preguntan, ¿podemos pagar por Bitcoin? Yo le digo, claro que sí. Lo que quieran comer, lo que quieran llevar, sí lo pueden hacer. Y una experiencia buena.
We as humanity can do almost anything that we imagine. In El Salvador, we are trying to rescue this idea and start the design of a country for the future. I believe Bitcoin could be one of these ideas. That is why next week, I will send to Congress a bill that will make Bitcoin a legal tender in El Salvador. This will generate jobs and help provide financial inclusion to thousands outside the formal economy.
The president, to our surprise, pointed to Bitcoin Beach as the reason that the government decided to go down this path and to this whole national movement and law to make Bitcoin, a national currency. I mean, that's been somewhat of a surprise to us as much as anybody else. I thought maybe in 5 years or something, but we were pleasantly surprised to see them, see what was happening here in El Zonte and wanting for that for the country as a whole.
The Bitcoin experiment in El Zonte has been successful in the eyes of many people in the community, especially thanks to the donations that are part of the project. But does that guarantee the success of Bitcoin as legal tender on a national level?
Mr. President, thank you for having me here.
Peter McCormack is the host of the popular podcast show What Bitcoin Did. He traveled to El Salvador right after the Bitcoin law was announced to hold an exclusive interview with President Bukele.
Nice shirt though, the Pink Floyd one.
Thank you. I'm less like an idiot from Bedford who set up a podcast as like a hobby about 4 years ago, and then I ended up sitting down with the president in the presidential castle or whatever it is. Like, it's a real, what? What is happening here?
Having financial inclusion to 70% of the people that doesn't own bank accounts. Having a lot of investment in tourism and becoming a little less dependent on the output of new dollars. I think having Bitcoin as legal tender, even though nobody has done it before, it was a no-brainer.
Bitcoin has been written off year after year by experts, by academics, but it keeps coming back and it keeps growing, it keeps getting stronger, and it has a network effect. And what Bukele has recognized is that this isn't going away. You cannot destroy Bitcoin. You cannot turn off Bitcoin. You can't stop Bitcoin happening. Other leaders around the world are thinking about, how do we regulate this? How do we stop this? He's the one saying, how do we embrace this? The reasons why President Bukele may be considered or wanted to make Bitcoin legal tender are really a question only he can answer, but you can speculate. I mean, one of the most interesting things since the law has passed is the amount of Bitcoiners who've now been traveling down to El Zonte and visiting the country. He's driving tourism from people who've got some serious amounts of money with them in Bitcoin, and he's driving investment. He has recognized the opportunity with Bitcoin. Secondly, El Salvador is a dollarized country. It has been using the US dollar as its currency, which has a benefit. It's a stable currency, which is quite unusual in South and Central America. But it has its drawbacks in that they don't control the currency, and if the US government continues to print dollars and debase the currency, that affects the people of El Salvador. By having Bitcoin, he's given them optionality. He's given them an alternative currency that they can own and that is protected.
Today we got a lot of interesting stuff we're going to be looking at, including a new huge buy signal for Bitcoin. I do not believe that El Salvador accepting Bitcoin as legal tender is going to work. I don't think this is going to be an experiment that is going to set the table for that domino effect for all countries around the world to start accepting Bitcoin. Let's be clear here. Bitcoin started as electronic peer-to-peer digital cash, okay? It is not that anymore. Bitcoin has moved to a store of value and digital gold. When did that switch happen? sometime over the last 5 to 6 years. Most people in crypto believe that it is digital gold, it is not digital cash any longer. There are far better options, faster, less congestion, easier, simpler than sending Bitcoin. Look, was Cardano a great buy at 298? No. You don't ever want to buy something at all-time high. So really this big retracement we've had today, I mean, and if following the pattern of what Cardano has been doing this month, it needs that. Bitcoin goes up in value. As we always say in crypto, when in doubt, zoom out. When you look at the overall chart for Bitcoin and its history, it is straight bottom left to straight top right. And when you see a chart like that, that's something you want to invest in. That is not something you want to spend. People are going to see that in El Salvador too. What's going to happen is they're going to start spending money, and then they're going to see the value of Bitcoin go up, and they're going to say, wow, I should have more money than I have right now. If I just would have taken this Bitcoin, and instead of spending it at my local restaurant, if I would have saved that, wow, I could do so many more things with that money, and it's going to teach people more about economics and how to save and how to generate wealth. My big prediction for this entire El Salvador experiment is we are going to learn Bitcoin is not cash. Bitcoin is digital gold, and people are not going to want to spend it.
So what is you've obviously spent time thinking about it. What are the risks? There's internal risks, but there's also external risks.
What could be the risks? I mean, yeah, you could get some people angry or mad at us. They haven't been so good to us anyway. I mean,
is a country ready for something that no country has ever experienced before? For a country to make that legal tender comes with risks. So there's two ways of looking at this. You can look at it negatively, as opposition political parties will, and use it as an attack vector, or you can look at it positively and say, how do we make this work? It brings financial services. It helps raise the economic prosperity of the country. So my question is, how do we make this work? Not for the president, but for the people. This is about the people.
What are the practical challenges of the Bitcoin law for people, banks, and businesses in El Salvador?
Se me apagó el teléfono y si yo quisiera hacer alguna cosa ahorita, ¿cómo le hago?
What do economists and lawyers think about the Bitcoin law?
Bitcoin goes up and Bitcoin goes down. That is a problem that the Ministry of Finance is going to be wrestling with.
And will more countries follow the example of El Salvador?
I'm going to go and see what I can learn from these great folks of El Salvador that I can maybe apply to my home country, Senegal, in West Africa.
Find out in the next episode.